So tell me about
Exactly.
the next period. Let's say early '80s, from the downslide of this time. What would when was that, and how would you describe what was happening at that in that period?
Well, I think what happened in this community paralleled a lot of other communities in that you got into a lot of the corporate buyouts and the buyouts that weren't always for the good of companies during that period of time. And then also you saw the vast migration of jobs overseas start happening. But there's Fieldcrest, we're Milltown, and Fortune 500 company headquartered here. And in the 80s, supposedly Fieldcrest bought Cannon Mills. So this is a merger of two of the biggest manufacturers. Fieldcrest is known for high-end quality products. Cannon was middle to lower quality products. And while it was supposedly Fieldcrest bought Cannon, all of a sudden the headquarters of Fieldcrest in Eden are moved to Kannapolis where Cannon was. So it's more like Cannon swallowed Fieldcrest. And so we started losing all those good workers and management that had been the backbone of our community, getting moved, their families and all, to Kannapolis. And so that draining away of all of our assets began. And then slowly, one by one, and into the 90s. My husband was mayor in the 90s when we had the huge layoff, 800 jobs lost, massive layoffs with Fieldcrest as, the final death knell started to ring for that. And so we went through that whole transition of our image was a mill town, and we'd taken pride in that for over a century, and now it's starting to leave us. So what have we become? Thankfully, things like Miller Brewing, arrived, and diversification had already started in jobs, which is always wise. But at the same time, that transition is a difficult time, and again, we're losing people who have been leaders that were being moved elsewhere. So it was a rough time. Watching my husband being interviewed by CNBC. It doesn't always happen to the Eden mayor, and for an unfortunate reason. Job losses at that level were a national story, and and at the same time, we lived in the midst of all those mills. We lived right in the old uh, mill area, and we used to watch shift change, and I still miss seeing those cars come wheeling out at 11 o'clock at night when shift change would happen. It's real quiet at 11 now. And I miss that whole um, sense of vibrancy, if you will. Um, we live right in the hub of where a lot of the mills happened, and I tell folks I've lived where I live in the home I live in for 40 years. And in 40 years, we were surrounded by a number of textile mills. Every one of them was still standing and still operating when we moved in there, and they are all now closed, some of them torn down, one of them burned down. And that's been tough to watch. It's been tough to watch. And I talk a lot about dreaming of seeing the lights come on again. And there's hope for that. There's hope for that.